It was a cold, rain-soaked night when the young prince wandered through the forest, his heart heavier than the clouds above. He had grown tired of ballrooms, of endless formalities, of suitors who smiled politely but spoke only of crowns and wealth. What he yearned for was impossible to define, something intangible, a spark that could ignite his soul and quiet the gnawing loneliness he felt. For years, he had sought a princess whose beauty shone not just in her face but in her spirit, someone whose kindness was as natural as breathing. Yet, every encounter left him feeling emptier than before. Each palace he visited, each gathering he attended, felt like a performance, a stage where masks were worn with perfection. And though the kingdom adored him, no crown, no honor, no treasure could fill the void that a genuine heart could. That night, drenched and weary, he stumbled upon a tiny cottage hidden at the edge of the forest. Its windows glimmered with the soft glow of candlelight. Hoping for shelter, he knocked. An old woman, hunched and fragile, opened the door. Her eyes, sharp and warm, seemed to peer into the depths of him, into the quiet ache of his soul. "You seek something," she said, not as a question but a statement. "I do," he admitted. "I don't know what it is, but I know I will recognize it when I see it." She nodded and led him inside. "Perhaps what you seek isn't found in grand halls or jeweled crowns. Perhaps it lies in the smallest details, the things unnoticed by others." The prince warmed himself by her fire, skeptical yet captivated by her words. Just as he was beginning to feel that old, familiar despair creeping back, a soft knock came at the door. A young woman stood there, shivering, drenched in the rain. She was unlike anyone the prince had ever seen. Her hair clung to her cheeks, and her clothes were soaked and torn, but there was an unspoken dignity in the way she held herself. I have nowhere to stay," she whispered. The old woman smiled. "Then stay here, child. Rest and be safe." The prince watched her closely. There was a gentleness in her eyes, a kindness that radiated even in her exhaustion. Something about her seemed to resonate deep within him, something that went beyond appearances or titles. That night, she slept in the small guest room above the cottage, while he slept downstairs, thinking about her presence, about the inexplicable feeling that he had finally encountered what he had been searching for. The next morning, the prince awoke to find her sitting by the window, quietly tending to a tiny stack of linen. On the floor beside her was a single, bright green pea. Curious, he asked why she kept it. She looked up, a small smile on her lips. "My grandmother told me that the smallest things often reveal the greatest truths," she said. She placed a pea under her mattress long ago, to teach that real sensitivity comes from within. I carry her lesson with me. The prince felt a tug in his chest. The pea was absurd, trivial even, yet he understood the symbolism. True depth is often invisible, easily overlooked by the careless eye. Here was someone whose heart could feel the unseen, the unnoticed, the delicate corners of life that others ignored. Over the following days, they spoke of dreams, of fears, of hopes that had never been shared with another soul. The prince realized that every previous princess he had met lacked the very essence he now found in her, authenticity, compassion, and courage. Yet, just as he began to feel certain that he had found his true love, she told him of her past. "I am not of royal blood," she confessed, her voice trembling. "I am just a girl from a distant village, one no one would consider worthy of a prince's love." The prince's heart twisted. For a moment, he worried that his kingdom, his duty, might stand in the way of the connection he had finally discovered. But then he realized that love that bends to rules and titles is no love at all. The essence of what he sought could not be confined to lineage or wealth. "I don't care where you are from," he said, taking her hands. "I care about who you are. You have a heart that sees and feels. That is more valuable than any crown." Tears welled in her eyes. "But the world, they would never accept us." "Then let us start our world here," he said. "Where what matters is not titles, but truth." Days turned into weeks. The prince and the young woman grew inseparable, exploring the forest, sharing stories, and discovering joy in simple moments. Yet the court began sending envoys, demanding the prince return and fulfill his duties, reminding him that alliances and appearances mattered. The young woman understood the weight of his responsibilities, yet she asked only for one thing, that he never let the world change the purity of what they shared. On the eve of his return to the palace, a final test awaited them. The old woman who had first sheltered the prince called them to her side. "There is one last thing you must understand," she said, placing a tiny pea beneath a stack of mattresses in a secluded chamber. "The world will test your love. True hearts will endure even the smallest discomforts, unseen and unacknowledged." The prince and the young woman entered the room. The young woman lay down atop the mattresses without complaint. That night, she felt every bump, every irregularity beneath her, but she did not utter a word. The prince watched her, amazed at her endurance, at her willingness to bear discomfort for love, for integrity, for the intangible yet profound truth that she and he shared. By morning, he knew without doubt that she was the one. Her sensitivity, her courage, her capacity to endure and to love unconditionally, these were qualities no royal decree could dictate, no wealth could buy. She was, in every sense, a true princess. When they returned to the kingdom, the court was astounded. They expected a princess of noble birth, draped in silks and jewels. Instead, the prince presented the young woman, his hand in hers, her humble attire shining with the brilliance of her heart. "There is a kind of royalty," he declared, "that cannot be seen with the eyes alone. It is found in kindness, in courage, and in the willingness to love without expectation. She is my princess, and she has proven that true nobility lies within the heart." The kingdom fell silent, then erupted in admiration, not for her lineage, but for the authenticity, strength, and empathy she had displayed. Over time, even the most skeptical courtiers came to respect her, learning that compassion, honesty, and love were far more powerful than titles or wealth. Years later, the prince and his princess would walk through the same forest where they first met, hand in hand, watching the sunlight dance through the trees. Sometimes, they would laugh about the absurdity of the pea, the tiny seed that revealed the depth of character hidden beneath the surface. And every time they looked at each other, they were reminded that true love is not about perfection, appearances, or social expectation. It is about seeing the unseen, feeling the unfelt, and cherishing the soul that stands resilient even when the world is unkind. For the prince had finally found what he had longed for, and the princess had found a love that honored her for who she truly was. And in that discovery, they realized the most profound truth, that a heart open to kindness, selflessness, and humanity is the greatest kingdom of all.